Hello peeps, I'm busy putting the sheep through some for the footbath, and I just thought of another cracking story for you. This was my time working on a wind farm with Yogi, the one I talked about before. A really nice guy, one of the brothers I originally talked about. And the dogs are doing it on their own. Don't need me, do they? So, see? Anyway, when I originally started working there, before that I was putting steel sheds up, farm buildings, and it was really hard. I absolutely loved it. One of my favourite jobs, actually. But it was really hard work. I'd gone thin as a rail because we didn't stop for dinner or anything like that. And my belt was on the last hole. And I'd gone from working like an absolute dog, a job I enjoyed, to going on this wind farm thing, and it was like, I can only imagine it being like some office job. It was still a bit of work, like, but nothing like I'd been used to. So what we were doing was me and Yogi, we got this Land Rover and this trailer on, and we had a big, plastic pipe in the back that we used to put up the inside of the windmill. Up through the stairs. We turn the windmill out of the wind, and then there's a disc brake like on a car in it with a hole in the top, and we put a bolt through that to stop the windmill turning, see? It's because the Japanese, I think it was the Japanese or the Chinese, I think it was the Japanese. Or maybe the Chinese, I think it was the Chinese, I can't quite remember. Because as soon as the windmill was turned out of the wind, they could see that we were working on it, see? So that was the first thing to do in the morning. And I have to explain this, is that when I joined them, I was only there for about 12 months, but when I joined them, there'd been these big sort of industrial rows with the people there. They wanted us to do 4 windmills a day, drop the oil out of the gearbox, and the fellas I was working with, I was only going to do 2. They would have done more, but it was just some big argument that had happened before I got there. So I just got stuck in the middle of it all, really. Come on, here. Come back. I got stuck in the middle of it all, really. So there was a shipping container up there that we used to go and have breakfast in, and it was right on the top of a hill. And we had a couple of other lads there working, doing some plastering things on the inside of the windmills to stop the sound, because it was making a hell of a noise, see? And this plaster stuff was about this thick in there, around the top of the windmill, to try and stop the noise. But it was really toxic stuff, like you couldn't stick it in there. So go on. So when we used to go for bait, we used to go and sit in this this container on the top of the hill, and when the Chinks are about, I know it's not politically correct to say that, you'd see them coming up from miles off. And we used to joke between ourselves, because we had this lookout there, the Chinks are coming! And we, just like World War II, we'd all be running then back to our stations. Which is weird for me, because I've never been like that. I was always working flat out somewhere. So, just like you were running back to your, what's it called, trench, if you see what I mean. So, because we were only doing 2 windmills a day, good girls. Come here now, come here. Because we were only doing 2 windmills a day, when you were there on a hot day, the oil would, come here. On a hot day, the oil would come out of the windmill too quick, because it was got a bit warm, see? So when we put this pipe to the bottom of the windmill, and then you turn the tap on, it would just go, like, it'd literally be out in half a minute. And that was no good, see, because the lads I was with were trying to only do 2. It just making them look bad. So what we ended up doing in the end was getting a 2-pence piece, drilling a small little hole in the 2-pence piece. I can't believe we used to do it. And so you had like a small, like 2 or 3 mil hole in the 2-pence piece. And when it was a hot day, you'd put that in the pipe at the top, so the oil wouldn't come out too fast. And then when the Chinks had come up, to start complaining. The oil was still dripping. We'd just say, look at this oil coming out. It's serious problems up there. So it was like a mini war, to be honest with you. And it's the only place I've been on like that. But anyway, what would happen then? We'd change every other. We'd pull the pipe up the outside of the windmill to fill it back up with oil. So one of us would change places every other day. So the one would go up, you drop the sump of the windmill. It was like a big engine of a car. So you drop this big sump. There was a filter in there, an oil filter, a metal one. You take that out, you'd clean that out and put a new one back in. Sorry, put the same one back in, but you had to see if there was any filings or stuff in it, you see, to see if everything was okay. And then you'd silicone at the bottom of the sump and put the sump back up. Which, I got to be honest with you, I like doing it because it was boring. I'm sure we could have done 4 in a day easy, but anyway, I didn't want to rock about. I got this job up there and it was really good paying money, so I just did what everybody said. You know what it's like. I was used to being on piecework and things like that, and I found it a bit alien, but there we are. It was good money for me at the time. So when we'd dropped the oil out, and then we pumped the oil back in, one of us would, see, what we do is get the Land Rover with a rope and it up on a pulley up on the top of the windmill to pull the pipe up. And you'd reverse the Land Rover back. And then when you've done everything like that, you do the opposite to get the pipe back down. And then as you loose the pipe back down, you put it into a coil in the trailer we had. So because it was a long pipe, you know, like 100 meters long. So this was the funny bit. So one of these weeks I was there, they said, you've got to go up there today because they're changing the gearbox in one of these windmills this week, and they want you to loose the oil out and put the oil back in. Yeah, no problem at all. So what we'd usually be doing is, like I told you, we'd pull the little smaller pipe up the inside up the ladder to loose the oil out, and then we'd pull the bigger one up with the Land Rover up the outside. But because they had a massive crane there, a huge crane, and I don't mean some small thing, it was massive. I forget, these things were like 100 meters high. They were bloody high, like. And they said, well, instead of you pulling it up with a Land Rover, we'll lift you up in this cage thing underneath the crane. So I said, all right, then. So what I did was I tied this pipe onto the carriage, which is like a cage about a meter high by maybe 12 foot by 3 foot. So it's only up to your waist, really. And you were clipped onto it then, and I tied this pipe to the bottom of this thing so I could get it to the top. It all sounded great in theory. Soon as he started lifting me up, the coil on the thing started going like this. I remember this is going up now a hell of a height. This thing started going around and round, like spinning as fast as it could go. I was barely, as I could do this, hold on. And the guy could not do nothing below. There's me thinking, that's it? I am going to die filling a fucking windmill up with oil. It was going like this, almost like your legs was flying out. I was literally holding on for, I thought it was the end. Because if anything had broke then, it'd have been as flat as a pancake by the time I'd landed. So it's just going like this, spinning like this, like 100 meters up in the air, me with this pipe on board. And there was nothing I could do. So they just kept lifting it up and lifting it up as it was going, because there was nothing he could do. Then they stopped at the top, and I was going flat out round by now. And thankfully, the pipe managed to stop all this, and it started to slow down then. I had never been so glad. I'm pretty wild, and I was pretty wild back then, but that was scary. I tell you what, that was serious scary. So even Gaz then, who was wild as, I mean really wild, that frightened the living daylights out of me. And I thought I was a goner that day, just filling a windmill up with oil. So there's your tale for today. And thank you very much for listening to him. I quite enjoy talking about these things because it brings back so many funny memories. And I will have no shortage of them. So please comment, rate, and subscribe. for more. Ta-da.